Hey buddies, welcome to AmassGames. My name is Simon. Today I'm going to set up, play and review The Binding of Isaac: Four Souls. Now this is the base game as it says, and it is the second edition. Now you can find the expansion, lots of spaces available for this. So the unboxing video was so popular, but also I found it so fascinating in terms of the amount of stuff I hadn't opened to avoid spoilers. I was so interested to actually experience opening of this boxing again. I happen to have so much more stuff to open, actually film the second unboxing. So time of recording that hasn't gone live, but basically we get these various pennies and we're going to see me actually unboxing and viewing that too. So there's a total of 100 pennies. This is a game whereby using pennies as currency. And there's about 8 or so different points I do have to mention about this game. One of them is they talk about pennies, but in terms of various treasures, it happens to be the case that sometimes you actually have to be spending dollars. So in here it says cents, that's fine, but sometimes you see the dollar symbol, which does get confusing when you do see both, but they're basically just mean pennies. Whether or not that's to do with the video game, which is extremely popular, and at time of recording, I think at the time it was out actually, in fact, it was the 6th highest grossing Kickstarter or highest funded tabletop game over on Kickstarter on crowdfunding. So that's quite interesting. I do have lots of videos on crowdfunding, so please check out that too. So let me move this out of shot and tell you about this game. So we have a treasure deck. Now this is quite different to the video game, just bear that in mind. You can play this competitively, it's a bit like Munchkin, whereby it's basically kind of a threshold kind of game, whereby you are looking to win, get 4 souls. That's why it's called The Binding of Isaac: Four Souls. Or you can play it solitaire, or you can play it cooperatively. Now cooperatively is identical to solitaire, there's no other changes. So from a solitaire perspective or solo perspective, you might be wanting something extra. I most recently actually have played it cooperatively, knowing that sometimes there just being a bit of a delay until you're always pounding on someone until someone wins. The cooperative element's quite nice. And that's kind of how I'm going to show up today, because I think that's the best way of showing how to play the game. So what we're going to do is going to play 8 rounds. Everyone's going to play 2 turns. So you have a turn each, and ultimately then that's going to clock down. Now another thing, normally when you clock down a die value, that's all you're using this for, the 7 would be next to it, but for some reason it's all the way over there. So that is the 8 in play, and let me tell you about the game and the theme and everything like that. So we're basically taking turns to play out loot cards. We're also activating abilities to kill monsters, and ultimately going to try and get more loot items and trying to get more souls. First person to get 4 souls wins. Of course, I'm showing this cooperatively. Everyone's taking 3 coins, so I've got 3 coins, and my teammate again will have 3 coins. This is going to go in the solo playlist, also the AmassGames playlist, the How to Set Up, Play and Review playlist. It is just about family friendly. There's a few bits which could be a bit questionable. It's also going in that cooperative playlist as well, and I mentioned How to Set Up, Play and Review. So what you're going to be doing first is choosing who you want to be playing as. So you're going to randomise these cards, and you're going to pick one of these. So you do have Isaac in here, so you're going to shuffle these up and draw one. In this case I've got Lithith, so we're going to have that just down in place slightly here. And I have zoomed in slightly so not everything might be in shot. And Lilith starts with Incubus, so you're now going to go through and find out where Incubus is going to be, which we'll get to in a second. You can play with bonus cards. They recommend for your starter game you don't, but actually it's going to speed the game up, so I recommend you do add these. You can add up to 3 in the game. It comes with 3, but you can get others. In this case, the first player to have 10 or more loot cards in their hand gains this soul. Now the 4 souls you try and get look like this, so 4 of these will win you the game. However, I would have thought a nice big soul card is the kind of thing you're trying to mill the deck for. I guess if you have a big deck, as you can see, that's a big old box to try and fill up. That's probably why they haven't done that. So in this one, the first player to have at least 25 cents or more gains this soul, and the first player to control 2 or more guppy items gains this soul. So you're going to have various decks, so just to have them in shot, you're going to have 2 cards visible. So you're going to have 2 treasure items. We will be going to talk about the loot in a second, but we will also have 2 monster cards out as well. So we happen to have Pride, and we happen to have Dark One. Both of these happen to be quite boss-like monsters, because you can get souls from them. Other ones do not have them. Loot cards, as you might have seen from my second unboxing video, can give you 1 cent, that's the most common ones. Quite a few have 2. There's a few that have 3, a few that have 4. Sometimes there's 1 or 2 that have, I think, a nickel worth 5 cents and 1 dime worth 10 cents. So you've shuffled up these decks, all these 3 different decks as well, and Rune deck if you happen to be playing with that. You're going to have those 100 cents out to one side. Like I said, they just about squeezed back in this bag, which comes with the game. And what you're going to do is, like I said, you've got your starting character. You're going to have that extra ability. Like I said, I start off with Incubus, which in this instance, somebody else actually happened to pack away the game. But you will take that starting ability too. Like I said, you've got all of these cards going on here, these various treasures that you can try and accomplish. And one good thing about the game I will say at this point is, I'm aware I'm mixing in the review at this point, but all these cards are pretty much unique, and that's quite impressive considering the amount of cards you're going through. You're not going to go through much more of this deck. In terms of play though, in the last game we played, we managed to do it in 2 rounds. So like I said, you've got a lot of decks to go through. All of these cards, there are some duplications. Here's that 3 cents one, a few butter beans, there you go, a few more 3 cents, etc. There's that dime card. So a few more things to play with. And of course, with this deck, the monster deck, everything here happens to be unique. But over here, we're talking about the starting items, which we'll come back onto. So we've got various things. So sometimes they're just events, so you're going to kind of discard them when you start up. So if we get back to another event in a second, let's see if we can find another one. Something like this. So that's just something that affects the game for the time being. So Incubus, we need to grab that card. So it's nice, it's a bit asymmetric. Everyone's going to start off with something different. I haven't played with Incubus yet. So in this case, you're going to choose one. And this is basically a kind of reactionary kind of card. Look at a player's hand. You may swap a card from your hand with one of theirs. And you can loot one and then place a card from your hand on top of the loot deck. Now, the good thing about this, as I've mentioned earlier about being co-op, is it can work both ways. So you'd think normally stealing a card is great if you're trying to win. Equally, if you're playing cooperatively, it always works whereby it's going to work in both directions. So you can work cooperatively and you can work competitively, which is a great, I think, bit of visionary insight for them to choose to do that. Now, I know that's not fully in shot. Maybe I'll put this sideways just so we can see the text on there. Of course, this is a text-heavy game, so just bear that in mind if you're playing and, of course, trying to read everyone's stuff. The writing isn't small, which is good, but, of course, it is text-heavy, of course. It needs to be language-independent. Check my Pegsish Spieler video, of course, or playlists. I know that they're doing it over in Germany, etc. So everything else can go away, and now we're going to start our turn. So let's start up with what I can do. Well, we do have a thing called a priority, which I'll come back onto. It basically is to do with like who's going next. That's all you need to be aware of. So first up, you're going to charge up your stuff. So initially, your character is going to be unavailable, and I'm going to bring it up. I know tapping is a phrase in Magic the Gathering, and so that's basically them up and starting. This always starts readied. Okay, so start of turn, you're applying the abilities. If you want to do that, then priority passes. Again, priority is all about everybody else having a response. It's basically a response kind of effect. And then everybody's going to loot a card. So the active player loots a card. In this case, I take this card. Choose a player. So normally this would be hidden information. And we have some key terms here, which came in this little thing that I happened to put in a little baggie, which came in the box too, a little envelope. So you choose a player. They gain 1 might, basically an extra kind of power, strength, and +1 to die rolls till the end of their turn. That's something I could be using. I'll tell you how we use that in a second. But next, talk about what we do next. So the first thing we're doing is the start phase. So like I said, I recharge everything. I do anything I want to at the beginning of my turn, and then I loot a card. So the top card is now mine. So I now have this in play. And now I can choose to attack up to once. So I can choose to attack one of these, or I can attack a new card, which basically is going to replace one of them. In this case, I need to try and get some souls. Well, like I said, not every card has a soul. In this case, that one doesn't, as you see. So we're trying to get that. So let's go for, what's an easy one to hit on? Well, that one's got 3 health. Let's go for this one a bit quicker to get through. So in this case, we're trying to attack it. So how do we attack it? Well, we need to hit on a 4+. So we are going to be rolling a die, but we happen to roll a 2, which is not high enough. And that's whereby, at this point, we hit that stack phase. A stack phase is kind of a programmable part of the game, whereby I'm now going to ask everybody else, or everyone else can choose to try and, if I happen to get success, try and stop that attack in the competitive play. In this case, I might have my teammate, of course, which can have their own player cards, etc., to try and help me. In this case, is there anything they can do? Well, I don't know. They happen to say have Isaac, in which case you can choose a die roll and its controller re-rolls it. So they're going to put that card, it kind of works in the centre, but this is a bit of a different kind of card, so it's eternal. I re-roll and I happen to get a hit. In this case, I can now choose to do this and play this on top. Imagine my opponent passes, or in this case, my teammate had passed. So I'm only playing 1 card. So this now resolves. So I firstly do a hit, and you can choose a player. They gain +1 attack. So currently my attack is 1, so it's an attack of 2, in which case it's enough, it kills it off. If it didn't kill it off, but I did do enough hits, then I'm going to have to go again until I do enough damage to, of course, to knock it out. Of course, if I've got low enough, then it damages me for 1 as well. So then I've lost 1 health. Speaking about review again, I think it's important to mention at this point, there's nothing to track how well your life is doing, especially when, if you happen to then leave combat, or whatever it might be, everything kind of resets back to full health, which is fine, but as you're playing, that is a bit of a factor and a bit of annoyance. So in this case, I happen to do enough, I've destroyed this, I've got myself 1 soul, so we can kind of just have like the soul video visible or something like this. But what I do get is when attack is declared on this, the active player chooses a player, and that player discards 2 loot cards. So I'm going to pick somebody else. There's nothing in here about the Grim rule whereby you've got to pick someone to lose cards. I haven't got any other loot cards apart from this one, but I do get 5 cents, let's say. So I'm now up to 8 cents, so I'm working towards obviously one of these cards. If I happen to, of course, complete these 3, it doesn't really matter, but on my turn I'll try and complete them. Then we have got the 4 and we have 1. Alternatively, I might win 2 and my teammate might win 2. So once you have completed a card like this, you are now revealing another one. So that's how this works. You can always buy these. These are going to cost you 10 cents each unless otherwise stated. So right now I've got 3 cents, I've got another 5, and that's how that's going to work. From a cooperative point of view, I think it is quite effective. Again, compared to a Munchkin game whereby it can keep on going on and on, you're kind of just constantly stealing maybe souls off somebody or whatever it might be. That is something to bear in mind. Like I said, there's lots of variety going on here. But there is no player aid as well. There's also no video specifically for this. There are some videos, other videos available online, and they do cover quite a bit, but we found that we haven't had everything covered off that we needed. I did mention about like the cents and the dollar things does kick in now and again, and also the rule book. I mean, it does say about there's a longer rule video, but there's no examples in here either, even in the other example. There's only one example in like a PDF version someone's made, but you'd think for the second printing or second edition, they would have that in here. And they do talk about some things, so about layout, which is fine, and luckily you can kind of generally see the backs of the cards, so you're aware of that. I mean, here's this dollar symbol that I talked to you about earlier, and it is quite good that they do talk to you about attack values, but again, it's not always specifically clear. But so what's my review on this? Well, my average rating is 6.4, and I think a 6 is fair for this one. Like I said, a few things that need polishing up to improve it, but generally speaking, it's quite a nice box that it comes in. Lots of variety. It does get sleeved, so check my sleeving playlist as well. You've seen my sleeving in the unboxing video too. Any kind of errata or questions, check out my YouTube description and also comments. And of course, you'll see any kind of updates there, as well as searching for the podcast online. So just do Google the podcast. Also head through to Instagram for photos, the discussion on Facebook, and of course, supporting via Patreon, amongst other places. It's also on TikTok, X, Threads, etc. And I look forward to speaking to you again for the next one. So obviously, please enjoy this game. Aside from that, just like to say, back to the table. And there's one other thing I wanted to mention about stacks as well. So yeah, the stacking's fine, but that's a bit which is something that people don't quite get. And considering other people who are behind the game even state, oh, after a few plays you kind of get it, I think that could be clarified better in the rules so people did get there on their first attempt, because then of course they're going to play it more. Lots of variety, again, lots of different characters, 11 characters, which is great. And technically you can actually play with more. I quite like the way they wrote, let's say 1 - 4+ or 1-4+. I think that's effective because you could play with a lot more players. I think it could be a bit crazy though. I think it'd take a long time competitively in that instance. But thanks for watching. For now, back to the table.